Well, we're a week away. Holiday gatherings have been happening. There's going to be more that are coming up. Most likely, some drinking is going to be taking place. So it's important to get home safe. And police, specifically the OPP, they have been introducing new, stiffer impaired driving penalties. Here with more is disability and injury lawyer Nainesh Kotak. Fascinating, because this just kind of came into effect in November.
That's right. So the provincial government has legislation now that even if you're a first-time offender, you're convicted of impaired driving or overrating, you had your usual license suspension, but now you'll have to, even on that first time around, put the ignition testing on your car, so you'll do the breathalyzer before your car even starts, and you have to take remedial education as well, right off the bat on the first one. So there are justifiably so stricter penalties. We know the OPP stats that show that 1 out of 3 deaths from accidents on the road are caused by impaired driving. And we see even this year in our province in Ontario some very tragic circumstances have happened where children have been killed, one parent has been killed. So unfortunately, we still see this in our society, despite the knowledge that it is, it can have devastating consequences. So this is sort of one step extra now in terms of penalties that people could face if they drive impaired.
It's just about putting a plan together. Putting a plan, you're going out, you're going to be drinking, just have a plan. If you're going to call an Uber, don't drive. If you're driving, leave the car. If you need to, there's a number of services out there, even beyond cabs, Ubers, Lyfts, all of that people will come and pick you up and then they will drive you home. And that's where we get into kind of, let's say if you're hosting a party,
right,
the liability around that. And you don't want to get into that stuff, but I think it's important just to know what to do there.
Look, great to have parties, and enjoy yourselves. The holidays are meant for this, but it's important to be prudent and protect yourselves from liability. So there's different degrees of where someone could be liable in terms of hosting of parties. Obviously, a commercial host, a restaurant or bar, there's a more stringent test on them, and they could be responsible not only to the person who left their premises, but also to third parties who are injured. When it comes down to social hosts, that is, let's say you have a party, I have a party, and people drink, it's less likely of liability on the injuries to third parties, but there is a potential liability to injuries to your guest. And this is going to depend a lot on a case-by-case situation. Are you supplying the alcohol or the cannabis, or are they bringing their own? Is there a bartender or not who's monitoring these things? And there could be responsibility to the injuries to your guest. Again, case by case. I think we have to be prudent, as you say. There's a lot of things we can do to minimize risk. Having a discussion with your guests. Just saying, do you have a designated driver? Having that big punch bowl. Everybody puts their keys in right at the beginning, and doesn't get it back. They pick it up the next day. They get home with rideshare, or even having the owner themselves calling the rideshare for the person, just getting it. Or is there a place, if it's a small gathering, can they stay over? Yeah. Just to protect yourselves in the event of being impaired.
Driver's responsibility. Where do they land when it comes to liability?
Sorry?
When driving, the driver's responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. Look, if you're driving and you get in an accident and you're, whether you're impaired or not, but if you are, you can be sued for the injuries of another party who you injure. And obviously, if you have an impaired driving conviction, liability is pretty obvious on a civil context on you, and then you could be responsible for the damages, the injuries, the pain and suffering, and the income loss that somebody else goes through. There also is the potential, for punitive damage as well. If you're impaired and you strike someone, you injure them very severely, there actually is a precedent for even greater damages that could be awarded against that driver as well.
Okay. These are topics that we don't want to talk about, but you have to talk about because it continues to still happen. So we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you educating us throughout the entire year and supporting the show. It was great to see Aaron at the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum. Your son Aaron, who you bring each and every year.
Yes.
That's always a valuable thing. So I wish you Merry Christmas,
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
New Year. Nainesh Kotak to you and your family, and we'll look forward to much more in 2025.
Thank you so much.
Continue with more Morning Live on your Wednesday morning right after this.